Your diarrhea. Are full of shit? Just play along with me, myself and I know what else I am so legit. It's like 5:30 in the morning, so I'll kind of keep my future wife fantasy thing kind of short and sweet. No need to hype it up, but basically it'll be you and I, on some like idle weekend, and I'll be like in the kitchen, doing something, and you will emerge, from the bedroom or wherever, wearing nothing but, socks, a properly cut thong that you're wearing right, so pulled up nice, proper cut whale tail, in the front and the back. Smooth material, no seam or at least narrow. And your like sports bra, and that's it. And I'll be like, shit, whoa, because just the fact that you kind of like, whatever. And you'll kind of just do some stuff, maybe start making you a cup of coffee or some shit. Then you'll come over and, kiss me on the cheek or whatever, and I'll be like, damn, sexy zebra mama, And you'll say something like, I'm gonna, enjoy your day, babe, this evening I'm gonna, put these cheeks, on your dick and, butt dog massage you until you, come so hard you have that euphoric feeling in your dick, tomorrow morning. Proper, of course, face me, straddle me, workout bench style so you can, get full range of motion on your hips and whatnot. And that's why I had to delete that the first time, because I just said something like, cheeks, and I didn't explain it. So I figured, the faggot earthlings would be thinking I was talking about, butthole shit when I'm talking about butt cheek shit. Proper. But anyway, so all day long, I'd be thinking about you and that thong. It rhymes. And if you're here, I might, go outside and do shit, and then, come back in the evening or whatever and just sort of chill and just kind of be anticipating that shit. And it would have to be like, 4 or 5 days since my last ejaculation, so I'm building up a good load, and I'm good and horny, you know what I mean? So that's that, because, it just depends. And you will have slept in that, through the night, so. So that might be kind of. It's just kind of how it works out, you know what I mean? Because by like day 4 or 5, I'm going to be thinking, morning time. But, it's a fantasy, so logistics aside, maybe you give me in the morning, I'm like, I'll get the towel, and, no, I'm going to do that. We're going to do that tonight, so that's how I could play outside. Be like, okay, sounds good. And then I'll be there. But I wasn't expecting you to just be walking around, chilling in the house all day, in your thong and your sports bra. So that kind of like, ooh, kind of ups the ante a little bit. I'm walking around half cocked all day, you know what I mean? So that's it, not a whole lot of, like hype to it or anything. I had said that and I had to take it down. And, last night, I had talked about, the collages and stuff that I'm doing, and I've kind of decided to become a little bit more obsessed with you, quote unquote. So I've got pictures of cartoon sexy zebras all over my room now. I'm just kidding. I don't. But that Rube de Rossi? I got another like video just unsolicited at like 5:16 in the morning. So again, it's the like AI kind of on the fritz. It's like, oh really? Oh wow. And it was just the same video. You know what I mean? So it's like, this is kind of pathetic. But like I said, I don't know how long she's been doing that. She's probably going to get, a big chunk of change. It may or may not fizzle out. she may have continuous, simps and suckers, doing that sort of shit. Because me, I'm into a specific fetish. I have panty and thong fetish and butt cheek fetish and all that stuff. But most people would be totally good with just, because they're not like personal videos. And I don't blame her a bit. There's no way. It's like, this is general shit. But if it were me, I would have more integrity and not be trying to play it like, ooh, hey, you simp boy, No, I would just put it out there as kind of an all points bulletin. You want to see me in some sexy, photos and sexy videos? This is what's up. I wouldn't pretend to do the whole, ooh, should I take it to the next level for you? No, that's, in my opinion, that's, it's not bad karma, but it's just, what's the word I'm looking for? It's cheesy. It's cheap, It's like, just be real, just, hey, boys, you want to masturbate to this shit? Here's some photos, because it's just logistically, it would be like a full-time job. She probably fucks around and just, I don't know what she does with her time all day, but I doubt she has a real job. Her husband has a real job. She says she's single, by the way. Get the fuck. Oh, so that's your pickup, that 1945, Chevy or whatever in the background. Oh, that's yours. I thought maybe it was your husband's. And that other one, fuck, it was like some 1960s fucking Chevelle or some shit. Oh, my bad. You're a kind of a hands-on kind of girl, aren't you? But, in the carpet, for like to catch the oil and shit, the big old, it's like, get the fuck out of here. But the simps probably don't know no better, but so, and her in the passenger seat of the pickup truck, these are things people who have, 10 years as an adult in the adult world under their belt pick up on. This isn't even ex-CIA shit. This is just, have you been wandering the earth as an adult for more than 10 years? Shit. You notice that shit. So, and she's a silly girl. She don't know jack fuck all shit. But especially if she just have, life handed to her on a silver platter, for showing her ass. I don't know how long she's been doing this. Maybe she really is, 20 or 22 or whatever. No, she said she was 21, I think. Maybe it was 22. I'm confused. I know that. Hi, this is Ray. She's 20. And she looks like an absolute dork. She's a dirt, but she's like cute in her own way, She does kind of have some buck teeth and shit, but she's just this delicate, fragile little being that loves books. Oh, I remember the first time, I remember where I was and what I was doing the first time I read this book. This is the first book where I was actually sobbing. Not just crying, but sobbing. And, like I said, she's probably pansexual or whatever, where she has no desires for intimacy. Not only sex, but intimacy. She doesn't need to be held and kissed and stuff like that. She needs friendship of both girls and boys. But it is beyond her that, oh, Ben, we're just friends. He would never think of me in that way. And even if he did, he would respect my boundaries, because Ben thinks like, oh, yeah, she's going to be my girlfriend someday. It's like, no, she's not. She needs the, interaction socially of the opposite sex. She needs, because she's human, she needs both boys and girls in her life. She just doesn't want to hug any of them, kiss any of them, and sure shit doesn't want to get intimate with him, and the, the hot dog, meat, clam, sort of a deal. And when in her world, it definitely would be hot dog, meat, clam. It wouldn't be sausage, meat, clam. It would be, Oscar Mayer wiener, meat, clam. But anyway, or mini muffin with a, kitchen knife wound. Isn't that cute? You two would make a great, but no, she has no desire for that. So. But that being said, I bet you she's had an orgasm reading a book before. Or, I take that back. She hasn't yet. If she has, it's her dirty little secret. And there was no physical stimulation. It was all just mental. She was like, oh, and she put the book down and just sort of held it against her chest. And just like, oh, just sort of lowered down and just sort of, and just sort of let it happen, and it's just like, and she needs to kind of clean up afterwards. She's a little bit moister down there, to the point where it's like, okay, got a little cleanup duty to do here. I'm not talking like, female, squirter, secretor, for lack of a better word. But, that's something she would never, say, but like, oh. And she's all confused, and it's like she can't believe, she's in shock and awe what just happened, but at the same time she's like, oh, she's like, that was definitely not a bad experience, and just, hi, this is Ray's Book Corner. Shit. She's gonna get a master's degree in that bullshit. She's gonna ruin her whole life, throw any chance of ever being financially, free. So, anyway, she's going to have to marry her a wonder boy. And like I said, I don't see that happen. Well, that's not true. She could marry some computer geek, some software engineer. Or even some, guy who engineers, medical equipment or some shit. I take that back. There might be a way out for her. Just not by her own means. Versus that little Miss Fish Bicycle, Ruby de Rose, or Samantha, or whatever her real name is. She did it all on her own, just by cheaply, showing pictures of her, vagipus, and doing a little cutesy tootsie, then you're on the hook. But anyway, I stumbled across this video. She was a OnlyFans influencer, and she has stabbed her boyfriend. And the defense is saying, yeah, she did it, but she was in fear for her life, and she threw a knife with enough force to get through the rib cage and the muscle and the membrane around the rib cage and into the heart. I don't think so. She could do that. Number one, she'd have to be. Oh, that's my fan. It's old. It's crapping out. Take it apart, sand some shit down, use some oil that has viscosity. That's designed for that. Some sewing machine oil. I might be able to fix that. And then it would just be, because every now and then it does. It kind of makes like this rattling sound, because the shaft or whatever has got so many rotations on it. Starting to crap out. Did that one time when I was a kid. I took my fan down to my dad's shop when I was 13 years old. Took it apart and basically just put it back together. So it wasn't a proper rebuild or anything by any stretch of the imagination. I didn't use any new parts. I didn't sand anything down. I just like an idiot. Maybe I used some WD-40, but you got to do a little bit more than that. And I put it back together, and I forgot to put the oscillating arm, attach it, and I just bent it out of the way, and my dad was flabbergasted. He wasn't mad or anything, but he's like, if I was your boss, I'd fire you over this. And I remember thinking, what's the big deal? Now I got this AC unit. I kind of took one of the panels out and I use it to bought an animal heating pad, and I wedge it against in there. You know, and I've got the animal heating pad sticking up out of this panel that I loosened one side. So it's up against the sensor, so it'll run full time instead of shutting off, because it doesn't have the option for full time fan, because, you know, faggot fucking, you know, why the hell would that be something that you might be interested in? You know, and then it turns on, kicks the AC on, you know, maintaining temperature. So I just always have that thing on warm, so it just runs AC all the time. Because I'd clip it, you know, the sensor, but it might be designed to use it. Like, even if I circumnavigate it and wired it, you know, with wire nuts or duct tape or electrical tape, or, you know, strip the wires and, you know, crude, however I wanted to go about it, I'd have to buy the proper gauge wire and, you know, put that section in, because now there's, you know, it's too short. Because I took that, you know, it might be designed to function with that as part of the system, you know what I mean? There might be like sensors and stuff, you know, it's not, I can't just remove the sensor and just replace it with wire, you know, it might not work. So this thing cost me like $500, so I'm like, fuck it, you know. So I got this heating pad sticking out the top, you know, and it's just like, you know, fucking faggot shit. You couldn't just build it right the first time, you know. So, and it didn't state that, you know. It's like when you go to a motel, you know, they have the constant fan option. Yes, you know, you'll hear the, you know, AC shut off and it'll just be fan, and then it fires back to life, you know, and, you know, it starts blowing cold air. So, but anyway, this influencer, you know, so it's like, okay, whatever, and she's all crazy and shit, you know, she's, you know, I'm gonna assume she's still hyped up, you know, on the validation. You know, it's like, sweetie, you're gonna go to prison for, you know, at least 25 years. You're not gonna get any, you know, validation in there. This is still, you know, you're on camera and shit. I don't think you realize what just happened, you know. Maybe she thinks she's going to get off the hook, or, you know, because she's a girly girl, tee-hee, she's just going to get like 5 years, and, you know, yeah, no big deal, you know. Then I'll get out and I'll have some I'll be the bad girl, you know. I don't know what's going through her fucked up, you know, broken mind, you know, but in the meantime, she's still kind of like, you know, yeah, tee-hee, look at me, because you can tell, because she keeps looking like at the camera, and then she's like looking at this other person, and she's like, sticking her tongue out, and I don't know what she's doing. And then she'll look at the camera, so it's like, this is blatantly obvious. This is a thing for her. This is, you know, she's addicted to, you know, the attention, the validation, the notoriety at this point, you know, and yeah. So, but just like that Jeremy Meeks, you know, how he had all these, you know, girls who were like, ooh, bad boy. And it turns out it was like a weapons charge and gang-related stuff, so. I had said one time, it's like, he did some chicken shit stuff, like he beat up a 12-year-old boy. I don't know where I got that, but there may have been some hater, you know, pushing shit that didn't happen, but. So it's something like that, only, you know, the people, you know, still, you know, loving this chick are simps, you know, because she was an OnlyFan, you know, so they're like, oh, you know, whatever was going through their heads. So it got me thinking about, you know, Ruby Day Ross saying how there might be some people out there, you know, that's why it would be good to use a fake name and fake everything, especially if she took her husband's last name, because now she's dragging him into the mix. Because you might get some simp motherfucker who figures it out. Hey, you mean I'm not the only one? This isn't like an online long-distance relationship? You're just a smut? You know, and, you know. Fucking bitch-ass little weasels. But you ain't gonna find her, because that ain't her real name, bro. Because there's people out there, they'd pack up, you know. They'd be like, you bitch, you know. If that's her real name, she is a dumb broad. You know, you need to be anonymous. Fake name, fake everything. And like I said, oh, get the fuck out of here. Look, shit. You know. But anyway, I kind of skipped over this. I said something about her man. Yeah, so what she does with her day all day, I don't know. Because her man probably works because a man needs to work. You know? And maybe she's not married to a man. Maybe she's married to a simp. You know? Not, like I said, the vehicles in the background, that kind of makes me think it's not a Ben or a Brian. You know, it's a Jerry or a Jeffrey. He might still be kind of a suck ass. But like I said, they're both laughing all the way to the bank because she's not interacting with these dudes. If she was interacting with them, that might be different. You know, like, babe, you actually take the time to, like, you know, make custom videos and shit. You know, that changes the game. But if it's all just AI bullshit, you know, no, honey, shit. These suckers, you know, Apple, you know, like I said, a 30-second short that she breaks down into 3 10-minute shorts, you know, every 3 or 4 days on YouTube. Every 4 to 6 weeks, 3 to 7 minute video, just a compilation, however you say it, of her shorts, and 1 new picture and 1 new video a week on her spicy site, and it's all AI generated. Shit, babe, come here, give me a kiss. You know, but so maybe he's not, you know, the example I gave, you know, blah blah blah, in construction since he was 16, he's a supervisor now. Maybe he's more of a chump, you know. Maybe he's kind of, you know, he's not, well, you know, he's not a chump, but he's not. Shit. Whatever. I'm trying to think of a name. You know, what's in a name? He's not a Harold. He's a Sebastian. You know what I'm saying? It's like it kind of gets your mind going somewhere. So maybe he's not. Whatever. Like Jeff. You know, that's a fairly middle of the road name. That could go either way. Like the supervisor dude at my last job, his name was Jeff, and he was an absolute shitbag. An absolute fucking punk, bitch, weasel. You know. And I'm not going to get into that, but... Yeah, he did not have good character. He was not a strong character. He was a very, very weak character. So... The people who worked for him did not respect him. You know, they showed him respect because he was the boss, but it wasn't earned. It was given him just by the nature of his position in the company. So, anyway, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.